Welcome to the Troy Talk Podcast, your home for anything and everything sports. Sit back, enjoy, and here's your host, Troy.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Troy Talk Podcast, your home for USC sports. Morale may have been low after last week, but we are going to rally today and give you a preview of our last regular season game against the team from across town, the UCLA Bruins. Very excited to announce that I will be in attendance this weekend for my first home game since 2019. So boots on the ground reporting, I will be there. As always, we will go over their team, what I want to see from USC, talk about some bowl projections, some USC basketball, and then lastly, our Troy Talk picks. Once again, thank you so much for all your continued support. If we can get to 500 by the end of the year, that would be a huge accomplishment, and it wouldn't be possible without every one of y'all, new and old. So let me know down in the comments below what you want to see from USC this week, your score predictions, and whatever else is on your mind. All right, let's get it rolling. So I know it feels like this game may have lost a little bit of luster now that the playoffs are out of reach, but I'm still really excited about the game. One, I'm going to be there for the first time in a long time. And two, we get to hopefully beat up on the UCLA Bruins, right? We have a chance to go 9-3, which would fulfill my preseason prediction almost to a T. I think everything would have been predicted exactly how it happened. But we have time to unleash a little bit of pent-up anger, aggression on our crosstown rival, maybe when they're in a moment of vulnerability, if you will. For what it's worth, I really do like the spot for USC. I don't pick USC with handicapping ever. We'll talk about what the spread is later, but I actually really, I'll always say when it's a bad spot for USC, I actually really like the spot this week. I think Lincoln's going to come in motivated to finish on a high note. UCLA is very beat up with injuries. We get to play in the Coliseum. And like I said, the spread is around 3 touchdowns. So that's a recipe for a much needed blowout, and I hope it comes into fruition. So UCLA, man, where to start? What a roller coaster of a season. Started off as bad as it possibly could. 4 straight losses, including an absolute demolishing at the hands of New Mexico. I think it was 35-10, which ultimately got Deshaun Foster fired. They then rallied with 3 straight victories. An impressive one, I will say, against Penn State, although that hasn't aged super well, even if Penn State has kind of turned it back on the latter half of the season. And then I think they beat like Michigan State and Maryland. And I remember watching those games and I was like, these are good wins. UCLA, credit to them. But like, these are not good teams, some of the weakest teams in the Big Ten. So I think people were kind of overrating them when they were on a little bit of a high. You always obviously get that new coach bump with Tim Skipper and Skippy Jr., which is kind of funny that they're both named that. But credit where credit's due. They did a good job. They utilized UCLA's strengths, what they had, and people weren't prepared for it. But obviously a little bit of false hope because they sandwiched those victories with another losing streak of, I think it's 4 in a row now. They were blown out by Indiana, blown out by Ohio State, and then blown out by Washington last week. So it seems like teams have kind of picked up on what they're doing over there and adjusted accordingly. I'm not sure what the feeling is around Westwood, but I can't imagine it's good right now. They hate their AD and they have a lame duck coach. I think they'll probably get a boost with whoever they hire if they do a good job hiring it. My prediction is going to be something like a Jed Fish or a Bob Chesney from James Madison. I think both of those hires would be very good, but they have to make a big splash with it. We'll see. They can't have another retread or repeat of what they did with Deshaun Foster because that was one of the worst AD jobs and just kind of clown show from them as far as like how to handle that kind of search. All right, so let's jump into the team. So their offense, it's not going to be a lot of credit from me here, but offense is 18.9 points per game, which is 118th in the nation. They have a mediocre rushing attack at 5th in the nation and a bad passing attack at 113 in the nation. So as far as the quarterback goes, Nico appears is going to be set to miss this game, but I think because of back-to-back concussions. So, it would be horrible for UCLA to play him optically after 2 concussions in 2 straight games. But I was honestly very curious to see how USC would do against him. I had a very succinct game plan in my mind on how to beat him, and I wanted to see if USC could kind of implement that. And obviously, we won't be able to see it. But in the long run, it's probably a good thing that we're not seeing Nico. As much as I think he has a lot of faults, he still is a talented, athletic quarterback. And in theory, could cause problems for USC. I'm still going to maintain that he was overrated. I don't think he likes pressure. He doesn't do well under pressure. He defaults to running the ball. And I think a lot of UCLA's running stats, even though only being 75th in the nation, come from him scrambling and running the ball. So I think he's been the leading rusher in about half of their games, and that definitely inflates his numbers a little bit. But no doubt they are worse without him. However, comes Luke Duncan, their quarterback who's probably going to play 6'6", 210, so big kid. Actually done pretty well, based off his stats. I'm not going to lie to you and say I've been watching a lot of UCLA football, but based off the stats, he did pretty well against Ohio State and came in last week against Washington and did okay there too. So good arm, lively arm, probably not as mobile, obviously, as Nico, but no slouch in his own right, and we're definitely going to have to take him seriously. As far as running back, man, I feel like UCLA has some really decent running backs, and even if they're not like super, super talented, they're very effective, especially against us, it feels like. They do, I guess, have a little bit of talent, but there's no alpha running back. Jalen Berger's our leading rusher, only 74 rushes for 370 yards and 2 touchdowns on the season. They did have a talented transfer come in, Javian Thomas from Cal, but he hasn't really done a whole lot. To note, Anthony Frias is kind of like their change of pace back. He has actually 8.3 yards per carry, which is pretty impressive. So I have to watch out, make sure he doesn't bust some big plays, whether it be out of the backfield in the run game or the pass game. As far as wide receiver, tight end, not a loaded group by any means. Quasi Gilmore is their wide receiver 1, 40 catches, 462 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Titus Mokiao Adimalala was a former USC target from Hawaii who has talent, has athleticism, is pretty fast, but really hasn't been consistent. Rico Flores is a Notre Dame transfer, former teammate of Walker Lyons, if I'm not mistaken, from Folsom High School. Has been kind of hyped up. I mean, obviously going to Notre Dame, good player, but really just hasn't materialized. They do have a lot of hope for their tight ends, even though this year it hasn't really materialized. It feels like UCLA tight ends always beat us up, but their main tight end is Hudson Habermill, so got to watch out for him because, UCLA always loves to use the tight end. As far as their offensive line, I mean, Nico was sacked 23 times this year, which is a lot, and sacked on 6.65% of the dropbacks, so not good. But also Nico likes to scramble a lot, doesn't get the ball out quickly, and can kind of sometimes, make his offensive line look bad because he didn't get the ball out on time and in system and just gets sacked that way. But I still don't think they're very good. Probably means there should be more sacks for us with this game, but I don't know. We'll see. Former USC Trojan Cortland Ford has been one of their starters, so kind of a blast from the past there, but just not a really talented group. As far as the defense, man, even worse than the offense. They give up 33.8 points per game. That's 120th on the nation. Almost 200 rushing yards per game. That's also 120th in the nation. And then actually decent to pretty good pass defense, number 23 in the nation at yards per game. However, I think this is likely because teams know they can run all over UCLA, and there's no reason to throw the ball against them, except for maybe the beginning of the game. You kind of just run them into submission at the end. But we'll see. I mean, they have some talent back there, but we'll go into their defensive back room a little bit more detail. As far as the defensive line, their sack leader on the line is Anthony Jones at 1.5 sacks, so they do not get to the quarterback well. Devin Alpu is another former USC target out of Pacifica High School, has talent, but not really performed this season. I think he was probably better last season. And as said before, they have a really bad run defense at the point of attack, so something that USC is going to have to take advantage of. As far as linebackers, I actually like 2 of their linebackers. John Vaughns is the tackle leader, 102 tackles, which is, I mean, tackles don't always tell the story with linebackers because that could just mean that you're on the field a lot and tackling people that you hopefully with your linemen would stop or other people would tackle. But he is the brother of Tyler Vaughns, so shout out Tyler Vaughns, really good player, dual athlete, think he plays baseball too. So he's probably their best linebacker. And then Isaiah Chisholm was a transfer out of Oregon State, who I actually thought USC might have been able to make a run at in the transfer portal and didn't. And he's actually had a pretty good year as well. But they've been very busy. As far as the defensive backs, Andre Jordan Jr. is their best defensive back, 8 pass deflections, which is pretty dang good. And Roderick Pleasant is another former USC target, has 7. So pretty good there. None of them have interceptions, so that is something to note. But man, Roderick Pleasant, like what if? He was heavily recruited out of USC. They wanted him to run track, went up to Oregon, flamed out there, and is now at UCLA. So don't ruin your life, as they say. And then lastly, Cole Martin is an undersized defensive back. I think he had an interception last week, so someone to look out for. He's actually the son of Demetrius Martin, who was a former USC coach. So very interesting. A lot of ties with the family and names and former USC people. Obviously at the crosstown rivalry. Their kicker, Mateen Bagnani, is a pretty solid kicker. It seems like he's been around forever, but has a pretty good leg too. I think he's had a couple 50-yarders this season. So what do I want to see from USC, right? First and foremost, I want to put a beat down on UCLA. And I know that sounds like, duh, of course you do. But I feel like this spot is perfect for us to just absolutely blow them out. And there's no excuse with how bad they are not to blow them out. I want to see the team play angry, and I don't want to see them play down to their competition, which USC is susceptible at times. Rivalry games are always a crapshoot, so you have to take that into consideration. But obviously, we did beat them 50-0 one year, so let's hopefully a repeat of that. I want to see a complete game from Jaden, and I don't necessarily need 400 yards, 3 touchdowns from Jaden, but just play within himself, use his legs. Throw on time, within system, no silly interceptions. That's really all I could ask from this game, because I think that the rest of it, which you're about to find out what I want to see, is run. right? I'm not sure Waymon's going to play. I think it's probably smart to hold him out this year. But regardless, we should dominate on the ground. I would love to see 200 plus yards since that's kind of what they're averaging on the year. I would love to control the clock and the field and just beat them into submission. I'm not sure if Brian Jackson's going to get probably the majority of the second string carries, but you might see a little bit of Sleep Dalton if he's recovered from his injury, maybe a little Riley Wormley, and who knows, maybe Waymon Jordan does suit up. But either way, it should be a lot of running and a very successful day on the ground. I want to see a solid game from Mekhi Lemon. Not that like I need him to prove to me anything, but I really want him to win the Blitnikoff. And I think a normal performance, maybe like even 6 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown, even though he probably gets more than that, will probably solidify him a Blitnikoff win. As it seems like Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith are both questionable for the Michigan game, and they've missed a couple games this season already. The best ability is availability, especially with these awards. So I think it's Mekhi Lemon's trophy to lose at this point. They have no answer for Jacoby Lane, right? I don't think anybody really has an answer for Jacoby Lane, and he's had some really good performances the last couple of weeks. So, this could be the last game, a regular season game against UCLA for Jacoby Lane. So who knows? Maybe he wants to kind of go out on a high note. The tight ends, need I say more? I say it every week, but it is the last victory bell game for Lake McCree, who has been around for quite a bit, and I want him to make it count, maybe get another touchdown like he did last week. Offensive line, it is beat up. So when I say I want to run, I do acknowledge that it might be a little bit difficult, but we should still dominate UCLA. Even our backups have been able to run against some good defenses so far this year, and UCLA is probably one of the worst defenses, at least in conference, that we have played this year, if not the worst. My guess is Elijah Page may try to tough it out, knowing that he has some rest for the bowl game after this, but who knows? He's kind of been questionable for basically seems like the whole season. I doubt Killian O'Connor is going to play this game, so it's probably John Ray Reed back, and Kalen Millard probably starts again at left guard, unless unless Elijah Page does start, then you might see Tobias Raymond start at left guard. So we'll see. Either way, we should dominate him. As far as the defense goes, man, we need sacks. We started off so strong and then fell off a cliff. I just need a little bit of that serotonin to hit. I'm shooting for maybe 4 to 5 sacks would be awesome this game, but we've really struggled. Crawford, Lucas, and Shelby should all be licking their chops this week, especially with how bad their offensive line is, brand new quarterback. I know they'll probably try to come up with a game plan where it's quick throws, like basically everybody has against us. Ultimately, when they're forced to throw a little bit more downfield later on in the game, hopefully when they're down a couple points, we can get some sacks there. Linebackers need to step it up. That was the worst performance of the year, I think, last week, even worse than the Notre Dame game. Not sure what's going on with Eric Gentry, but we need the old Eric Gentry, and hopefully his last regular season game, he steps up. I'm sure Dez heard a lot of the chatter last week with his boneheaded penalty, but I'm confident he has a good game. And I'd expect Lynn to use them on some exotic blitzes to kind of really force the pressure. You haven't seen a whole lot of that this year, but because we've kind of been doing bendo break and just playing the run fits. But I think this game he's going to basically unleash everything he has. The defensive backs, they got to be ready. I expect UCLA to throw a lot this game, and that quarterback does have a good arm. I think Marcellus will be up for this game because it's obviously he kind of grew up a USC fan and it's against UCLA, so that'll be a good one. DeCarlos Nicholson's last regular season game, I keep saying that, but that really matters, especially, with these guys that have been around a long time, realizing that they may not be NFL players and this might be their last chance at, really being on a football field in any meaningful capacity. I wouldn't be shocked if Kamari toughs it out. He was already pretty close last week and it's his old team. So maybe he's going to want to kind of dish it back to them. But we've been okay this year. Honestly, secondary I think coming into the year, I was most worried about the secondary, especially the defensive backs. And it's been one of the areas I've been least worried about pretty much the whole season. So now's the time to really show out. Let's get a couple interceptions and dominate the game. Special teams, had to talk about it. Reset. That's the word for this week. I want to see clean coverage units. I want to see better punting. I want to see the Ryan Sari of old, who's absolute nails. Hopefully he doesn't have to kick. We just kick extra points, but you kind of get what I'm saying there. Basically everything we didn't see last game. As far as coaching, offensively, I think Riley needs to come out expecting to drop 50. That needs to be his mentality. Of course, we want to score 50 points every game, but this is a game where we can do it and we have no excuse not to do it, or at least try to do it. It should be all gas, no brakes, and we need to make a statement here. I expect a lot of running, as I said, but hopefully with a lot of running, it allows UCLA to kind of creep up into the box and we might be able to hit a couple deep shots. Tanook's been really good on the deep routes. Mekhi obviously is Mekhi, and we should be able to get hopefully a couple big plays because I feel like we haven't had that 60, 70-yard touchdown since the beginning of the season, and I definitely would love to see that. As far as D'Anton Lynn, man, no excuse this game. They have no run game. They have a backup quarterback, and the slow starts are not acceptable. So I would be kind of upset if UCLA scored 7 points in the first quarter, but no more than 7 points. By halftime, we need to be in command and already asserting our will against them instead of waiting till halftime to make that adjustment. Anything more than 17 points in the game, I think, would be a failure. I know that's like very like, oh, that's not that many points, but like this is a time where we are so much better than them that we need to take advantage of that, and really just like, this needs to be one of those games that you remember that we just beat them down. Like, that has to be the mentality going into the game. We need to get after that quarterback. Don't let him get comfortable. I would love good run gaps, don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Like, there's been glimpses with Devin Tompkins, Keyshawn Silver, Carlin Jones, et cetera, but it just hasn't been as consistent as I'd like. Maybe we give Jakeem some increased snaps this game because he's going to have a big break until the bowl game. He can rest up that foot, and we see, maybe a breakout performance from somebody we weren't expecting. All right, so as far as my prediction, I know the one commenter in the chat always gets on me for my predictions, but this is the prediction. I'm going to pick a blowout. I'm usually pretty reserved with my guesses, but I'm going to say 48-17 in favor of the USC Trojans. The victory bell stays with the Trojans. All right, as far as the bowl projections, we'll briefly talk about that. I see that we're rumored to play BYU in the Alamo Bowl, and I think that's assuming that BYU loses to Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game. I think that's how it would kind of work out, because I don't think they would make the playoffs, even if they only have 2 losses, because I think they have 2 losses with that loss. But either way, yeah, I mean, it'd be a very interesting matchup, to be honest with you. I wouldn't mind it. They're a very Big Ten-like team in how they operate. Very solid team, good young quarterback, talented running back, and some pretty underrated receivers, in my opinion. Defense is very, very stingy. Have probably outperformed how good they actually are and their expectations. So I think we could beat them, and I think it would probably be like maybe USC by a field goal kind of situation, depending on who sits out and who doesn't sit out. But either way, I think it'd be a very entertaining game. All right, next, the basketball recap. So, man, what a string of games. I mean, Maui Invitational is always fun. Really cool to see that USC is playing there. We started off with a good win against Boise State. Really tough, hard-nosed team over there. Rodney Rice had a really big bounce-back game because he was pretty poor against Troy. Reminds me a lot of Boogie Ellis in some regards. Really had to find a way to get our rotation set up, because it's really not sustainable to play people so like maybe like 6 players that many minutes without leading to injuries, kind of like we had last year, which kind of derailed our season. Of course, segue happens. We beat Seton Hall. Great game, really tough game. But Rodney Rice gets hurt, separates his shoulder twice. Once popped it back in and went back out, and then popped it back out again. So interesting, just from a medical, just a hint on the injury a little bit. I mean, shoulder dislocations in and of itself aren't so much of an issue. It is kind of a pain tolerance thing. It's definitely going to be sore. Every time that it pops out in quick succession like this increases the risk of something like long-term happening. And I mean, likely the result of this anyway, anytime you have a shoulder dislocation for an elite athlete, is you're going to get an MRI. I think that's going to happen now, obviously. But if there is any damage, it's just like, okay, can we kind of just mitigate the damage, do some PT, strengthen it that way? Or do we have to do surgery right now? And my guess is it didn't look too bad. Rice looked pretty comfortable today on the bench. My guess is MRI might show a little bit of damage. Best case scenario, it doesn't show anything at all, and it's a perfectly normal shoulder back in its socket. But if it does, they'll just kind of rehab it a little bit, maybe keep him out on the non-conference schedule, rest him for the Big Ten slate, and then likely do surgery in the offseason. But hopefully it's just a brand spanking new shoulder. They maybe let him rest a little bit so that they don't risk any redislocation of it, and he's back to normal. Very interesting there. But yeah, going back to the Seton Hall game, Ezra Asar, great free throw shooting. I think he got to the line 19 times. They were hacking him. Almost gave it away late, but pulled it away. And then today, as I'm recording this was on Wednesday, they beat ASU in the title game. Might have been one of the cleanest, best USC performances I've seen in a long time. Complete team victory. Jaden Brownell had a great game. We've been clamoring for minutes from him. Even without Rodney Rice, Shad Baker-Mazara stepped up. We had some good minutes from the point guards. Just everybody played their role today and played really hard, and just did what we needed to do to come up with a championship. So that's really cool. I mean, USC is forever going to be in the history books as winning a Maui Invitational. So credit to Muss there. I have my qualms with his timeout usages and his lack of rotation sometimes, but he won us some silverware there, and he's has a lot of momentum with this team. I will say that. All right, lastly, the Troy Talk picks. We are at 40-30 because we did have a couple early week games that I put on Twitter. Now, you're going to call me crazy for this, but I did have UMass plus 14.5 against Bowling Green. And this is the UMass team that finished the season 0-12 this year. I saw the hook. I saw 14.5. Bowling Green's also very bad. I'm like, we can do this. We can do this. And unfortunately, it wasn't even close. That was a bad loss, bad pick from me. But we rebounded well with a no sweat victory. Western Michigan minus 6.5 over Eastern Michigan. So we went 1-1 in the early week. We are 40-30 for about 7 units. As far as the rest of the slate, we're going to do a big slate this week because it's the last regular season slate. We have Ole Miss at Mississippi State plus 7.5. Mississippi State has been pretty competitive in most of their games this year. I think their coach is pretty bad, X's and O's guys. He kind of reminds me of Lanning in that regard. His decision making is pretty bad, but his team plays hard for him. And who knows what's going on at Ole Miss right now with Kiffin likely going to Florida or LSU. So I think they're going to have that in the back of their mind. And obviously, if they lose this game, they're out of the playoffs. So in my opinion, and it's always a rivalry game. It's Egg Bowl. I think this is on Black Friday usually. So or maybe Thanksgiving. I don't know whether it's on this week, but plus 7.5, you get the extra half point there. No brainer for me. Next, we're going to go back to the well. Air Force at Colorado State under 45.5. I know that's not a lot of points. I know Colorado State is a bad team who has a bad defense, but Air Force does not have their quarterback, and I'm hoping for another low scoring game from that. Next, we have Kennesaw State minus 2.5 at Liberty. Kennesaw State is looking to go to the I'm blanking, Conference USA championship game, I believe, if they win this, and it's under a field goal. So must win game. Liberty's not that good this year. Kennesaw State is going to be looking at its chops, looking to do something in program history it's never done. Fresno State next, minus 2.5 at San Jose State. San Jose State is a god-awful football team. I think they might have lost their quarterback. Fresno State has had some flashes this year, beat Boise State, but has struggled a little bit the last couple weeks. I think Matt Entz will have his team ready to go. That isn't a big road trip. Obviously, Fresno and San Jose State, not that far apart, and it's under a field goal. Fresno State runs all over them. I think it'll be a pretty easy one. And then lastly, we've been having a good luck with the parlays. We're going to do another 3-team. We're going to do Washington State over Oregon State, Oklahoma over LSU, and UTSA again over Army. UTSA at home is the best team in college football that you've never heard of. Just absolutely pounds teams, scores a lot of points, and I anticipate, Army's not that good this year, so I anticipate another version of that. All right, so that rounds it out. As I said before, I will be at the game this weekend, so I'm looking at probably recording whenever I get back on Sunday. So maybe a little bit later than usual, not a Saturday night or Sunday morning type of episode, but I'll get it out when I get it out. After that, it's going to probably be the next thing is going to be a recruiting, kind of hinting at those recruiting podcasts that will hopefully have some film integrated with them, but that remains to be seen. Working on editing those videos right now. And hopefully there's not too much change either because I don't want to have to go back and re-record. And then I think we were kind of hinting at maybe a college football playoff preview once the teams get announced. So if we can work that in, I would love to do that with a special guest. And then obviously whenever we figure out what bowl game we're at, we're going to do a preview for the bowl game and we're going to do a recap for the bowl game. And that should take us to the new year and be a really good, 6 or 7 months of the Troy Talk podcast. And I wanted to say thank you again for the support. We are almost at 500 subs, so let's keep it going. Tell your friends, and hopefully the next time I'm talking to you guys, we will be 9-3 and fresh off a victory over the crosstown rivalry, the UCLA Bruins, and hoisting that victory bell back where it belongs. Or, well, I guess it's still there, but it's going to be where it belongs, I should say. So I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and we will see you again next time.